Live. Coming live from Ames, Iowa, and coming live from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Dr. Gates, Mayor, the art thief. Dr. Nastako, the art dealer. Coming to you with a whole lot of connection, intention, and certainly last but not least, purpose, right? So
Always.
we both had a really good weekend in very different ways, but I'll speak on mine a little bit first, and Gates, you can go through yours too. I think people can certainly attest that even though you're in practice, you still have things that you're working on the weekend that aren't necessarily in practice, but they're still in some way, shape, or form benefiting your practice, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that I've been really making intentions on doing recently is how is this helping me, my practice, or, in some way, shape, or form, my partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it doesn't serve me to help me in that way, like I'm really trying to cut it out. And it's not from a place of arrogance or that I don't care about certain things or people, but like it just doesn't serve me. So like why spin my wheels in that place when I have so many other things that require so much energy, right? So this weekend I went back Friday for a philosophy event that Dr. Nathan Garowitz put on with Dr. Zach Thomas and Dr. Jim Deegan in Davenport, with the MLS seminar being that weekend. So a lot of really, really awesome content and value just from that Friday philosophy talk alone. Just from the start, the whole premise of philosophy talk for like the first hour was more of like a free form, open platform for whoever was in the audience to come up and talk, and whatever their hearts or minds were leading them to talk about. So it was really organic, and it was really refreshing in a way to just see, so many different people going through different things or their own, talking about their own journeys, or even just something as relevant as a book that they read recently. So
did you speak when you were there?
I did talk a little bit. Yep. I honestly didn't know what I was going to talk about when I got up there. It was just kind of something of like, one thing that I can't remember his name, but he talked about it that like, to some extent, it's always about your comfort zone. So you got to put yourself out there, because that's what, especially in our day and age, people, you can't just hide behind your logo. You can't hide behind your posts, right? You got to kind of get yourself out there and let people know what you're about. So that was an opportunity for me that I wanted to put myself out there and get myself outside of my comfort zone a little bit more than usual. So I got up there. What I did initially talk about was I did talk about the biology belief, because I know I've talked about that on here some, because I'm going through that book. So that's always on the top of mind for me. So Bruce Lipton's, he's in my mind, he's like years ahead of the curve as far as like what traditional, he's been years ahead. He's been doing it since like the 80s, right? So what I talked about a little bit was what was profound to me was the quantum side that he talks about, and he just glosses over the quantum physics of life and what people perceive, and our perceptions are our beliefs. And when we're grounded in our perceptions and our beliefs in a positive way, it's so beneficial for us.
Right.
And the thing is, it's a flip side, it goes vice versa. So what I talked about a little bit was, I've said it here too, is just the structure of what people traditionally, or more scientists he talks about, traditionally view as a linear perception of reality and what's possible with that linear perception. So it talks about Newtonian physics versus, I believe, Lamarck. I could be butchering that, and it might not be Lamarck, but that's what I think from what I remember. And we talked about before, linear vision of matter is that like atoms are solid molecules. Like if my cup is an atom, it's rock solid. There's nothing there. It's just like, that's what it is. But the further along we got with quantum physics, with Einstein and the perception of E equals mc squared, with mass and light and energy, so the deeper we look into the actual structure buildup of an atom, we quickly realize that there's a lot less and a lot more to it than just being just this coffee cup or this physical structure. So with electrons and protons and neutrons, more so just electrons and their orbiting distance. A lot of people learn that in if you ever take physics, chemistry, or whatever. That's kind of what defines or makes it have its specific properties to that certain substance or that certain type of matter.
Right.
And a lot of people just like imagine that the electrons are flying around in this circle, right? But it's really a lot more pervasive than just like imagining like a rotation, like in a circle or a loop. And the way he described it is like you're looking at an atom. So like looking at this as the atom, the closer you get zoomed in on it, the fuzzier it gets, and it almost looks like a dust cloud.
Yeah.
And like the closer you get to the surface of it, like if you get right up to the surface of it, you don't see anything at all, because the electrons are moving in a way that it's almost like a wave. So they behave like matter in a way that they have density and they have mass, but they also behave like energy because they have properties like they have certain wavelengths and frequencies that they put out. So in that way, I talked about how that's impacted me and how I view, just my perceptions on not just, my coffee cup, but people that come into my practice and people that I serve, and the ability for me to impact them in a positive way, because what he ultimately gets around to is these atoms and these frequencies are cohesive to everything else around them. And like, that's what manifests my coffee cup into being this physical structure of a coffee cup is, that's just like the organization of it. Right. So in the human body, not just the atoms, but like to the cell structures, even bigger than that. I mean, you could just zoom all the way out and like, we're one complete community. We're a community of cells, trillions, hundreds of trillions of cells, and even more than that, atoms that all have they're all linked. So there's not just like this cut and paste type, border to every single thing. They all interact. They're all communicating to some level that, so when I'm looking at people and when I'm serving people, I realize that like when I'm touching them or when I'm connecting with them, that's something that even to the molecular level is a part of our design. Sure. And that there is no, and talking about like the anatomy of vertebra and moving bones, right? It's 2 ounces of a bone, right? A vertebra is like 2 ounces, right? So like super tiny. And it doesn't take like a 300-pound bench press to adjust somebody, you know what I mean? Like it's really is about that connection and your attention and your purpose behind that adjustment, and the perception that like this isn't like there's no hard people to adjust, right? Like there's really, like when you get down to it, there's nothing really but air mostly, and that's what most of our perceptible reality actually is there's more space than anything. Yeah. So for me, that's like a really big part of my mental visualization is that like people are mostly space. And for me, that was like a pretty big step for me to take for a while. So I did talk about that some. I talked about, a lot of people they don't have love coming into their life. I mean, let alone the fact that they're not supposed to like look at somebody else's face, or we talk about, you and I, like on our voice message about, kids having to wear masks and like the development of understanding social cues with having masks on, and like, not even just like physical touch aspect, but yeah, people literally don't get physical touch anymore. They might get it from,
they're scared to get physical touch.
Yeah, they're scared. Like literally they're being programmed to be scared of physical touch. And if you're lucky enough, you have those close family members around you, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't get that. And I mean, even if you do, some people grow up where it's not like a part of their family structure to really, I mean, that's not how they express love, is through physical touch. And like, that's such a inherent human design to like crave not just physical touch, but social interaction. We're social beings, like that's one of our highest forms of intelligence is our ability to be social in a way that we can, look at just everything around you, right? Like nobody designed that all by themselves. We're stronger together than apart. And that's something that's like so evident with, the policies, the politics behind everything right now is it's really dividing everybody and making people really reliant on, Big Brother, the federal government to quote unquote help them out. But really it's a stripping of people's rights and a stripping of what makes us human and what makes us love, and really leaning into the negative versus the positive, where the power of the mind is so strong in a way that, like, I don't mean this in like it has like a negative connotation because it's been programmed this way through like science and stuff too, with the quote unquote placebo effect. But like Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about it, where like that should have been something that should have been like, and it still isn't researched enough about the power of the mind with placebo effect. And why is that so powerful? Why, like, you're talking about cooking books on studies, man. Like he even mentioned that like a lot of pharmaceutical companies, they have a trial period to see who's susceptible to placebo effect so they can rule them out, so they can get them out of the test, because to them,
more powerful.
Yeah. And on the flip side, though, the nocebo effect, where people are being programmed that there's something wrong with them all the time, or like that germs make them sick, or that physical touch with somebody is going to make them sick, or putting them in a fearful state.
Well, you see that right now. I mean, like, you talk about the media and the pervasiveness of our own government saying, if you don't do this, you'll basically die.
Obey, right? Like,
I wonder how much that had that nocebo effect on a mass scale, literally a worldwide scale, to the death count. And that's even let alone despite all the other stuff. And the more that information comes out, the more people learn about who's more susceptible, and the more they picture themselves being susceptible, the more they become that,
It is a self-fulfilling prophecy for a lot of people, where like it's an identity that people want to clutch onto things that, in a way it might give them some sympathy from people or from like social media that like, I had COVID or whatever. I'm not denying the fact that there is a virus, but we talk about Andy Frisella's episodes a lot because at the bottom line, I value anybody that keeps it a buck, keeps it real, tells the truth. And truth is all in the eye of the beholder to some extent, but anybody that is going to talk about their truth with the ability to keep it objective and like they're willing to admit when they're wrong. That's what I really value about him. And one of the crazy things about the episode yesterday, where he had that triple board certified neurologist on there, was the fact that this is all public knowledge from the CDC, and to some extent, the CDC is backed by people with a lot of money who have gained a lot of money from the pandemic. But even they've released statistics on the flu this year where, like, essentially people aren't dying from the flu this year. But the same amount of people that died from the flu last year are dying from COVID this year, right? So that statistic just literally flopped to like a different name. So same amount of people dying from the same lack of health, but they called it something else. And like he talked about it was a political move for a lot of different reasons. But that's public knowledge that, like, you know, it gets released, but it also, I mean, it's funny how the media plays into it, where they'll release something else that happens to kind of like dampen the effect of the information, that people get distracted.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like a sleight of hand, like a magician, right?
Oh, it's all about that from, yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I've gone on pretty long with how my talk went this weekend. I definitely did not cover all that. It was good though, bro. That was what the talk on Friday was all about. Was about that self-love, right?
Yeah.
And being able to love other people, show
Yeah.
people that they might not be giving themselves that self-love, but that's something that we have the opportunity to help them with and to give. You can only give as much as you receive.
Right.
You're allowing yourself to receive. So,
Right. And I think
you're inside.
to touch on that point too, because they talked about this in the episode about how people who are faithful to like whatever CDC guidelines or anything, like they were like, no, you must do this, like, and then now they're kind of like, oh, like, wait a second, like this is not adding up anymore. Like they kind of see it and they recognize it, and I think people are starting to do that, and they recognize that that self-love or that lack of community has been gone for so long, then we're seeing such adverse effects, and it's only been a year. Like, I mean, think about 5 years from now, those kids that get raised up and what their ideology will be like based around this year.
Dude, the ideology, the isolation, man, I can't wait to touch on it a little bit more. I'm going through a chapter in the book again. I mean, or it's just funny how the universe presents itself in a way that it's what you need at that time, to me.
Yeah.
I kind of perceive it sometimes.
Oh yeah, I mean 100%. Especially.
Well, so in the book, he literally Bruce Lipton talks about this multiple studies on social isolation.
Dude, that's the worst form of torture.
Exactly, and obviously that's like been like the day one recommendation is social isolation. What's like the worst part about prison when somebody does something super horrible in prison? Where do they put you? Solitary confinement, right?
Yeah.
You go to solitary confinement where you don't get to see anybody.
You're and in then the dark, you go crazy, so you never have any chance of coming out.
Yep. And the prison system has a billion different types of problems with it, but like that in itself is just like, that is like their highest form of, say what you want about it, but I feel like people have a hard time telling me that the prison system doesn't torture people. And that's essentially one of their highest forms of torture is solitary confinement. So.
Well, two things with that. The first one being like, when we talk about prison systems or whatnot, and I'm not saying like, because there's a lot of people out there that'll be like, well, they did the crime, like they deserve a punishment, which like, I'm not discounting that fact. But at the same time, because I remember listening to some of the studies that were done, I can't remember this dude's last name. It's Audrey something, but he does this podcast. And he had another guy on it. I was talking about how they switched the prison food from like garbage food to a more like, I'm pretty sure it was all organic, like legit food, like pretty solid food.
Yeah.
And the amount of violent complications, I guess, decreased by like half, like just an incredible. And that was the only thing that changed. Granted, there maybe is more variables, but it's interesting how that could, and if you want to put that on a broader scale, we talk about this, and I was going to shoot a video on it too, is just like the amount of difference that food makes, and what we have a lot of times within these inner cities that we have a lot more crime. We have food disparity, like these food deserts. And then on top of that, a lot of things don't, the government subsidizes food that's garbage. So if we want to see true change with that, and if the government actually cared about our health, it would start there.
Right.
But then that second part of you talking about how social isolation, and we know the opposite of that to be true, because we talk about all like the preemies or, just twins in general. If one is failing to survive in the beginning, what do? They put the thriving one in the incubator with the one that's suffering. Yeah. And that one, like no other external source or no other, like that one didn't get extra medication, like that they weren't already getting. It was merely just the presence of that person, that other individual in there that made the difference in their internal environment, their health environment to start thriving. But like you said, that isolation, I mean, no, we're going to have way worse health complications after this.
There definitely will be. And I mean, I think to some extent it'll kind of show the people that didn't do that, right? I mean, it'll show the opposite effects for people who really made efforts to be social and not isolate themselves and to actually take measures to be healthy, to practice healthy habits.
Yeah.
I read something that, I'm a sucker for memes. I'm a sucker for anything that catches my my proverbial eye, right? My third eye, but
not the third leg.
Yeah, right.
Third eye.
The meme was, if your concept of health and if you taking medicine makes you believe that you're healthy, that's similar to somebody taking out a loan and perceiving themselves as rich or wealthy. So by taking medication, or if you perceive that you taking medicine that making you healthy, that'd be similar to somebody taking out a bank loan and perceiving themselves as being rich. Did you hear me or did I?
Yeah, you cut out there for a second.
All right, my internet connection is like going in and out. So try one more time. So if you perceive that taking medicine makes you healthy, that's similar to somebody taking out a bank loan and perceiving themselves as wealthy, right?
Yep.
And in the almost very it's almost a perfect analogy to where, like, you got to pay that for every dollar you take out, you got to pay back $2.
We students know them loans, man.
Well, yeah. We know them well.
You know them well.
But your health is, I mean, the term health is wealth, it applies, right? Mm-hmm. And you just keep running up that bill with your health and just keep pushing off that bill that you got to pay or that you got to start chipping away at. Sooner or later, the debt collectors come knocking, right? And if you're in debt with your health, there's only one way out, and that's to start taking steps to actually pay the bill.
Yep. Pay the fee.
Yep. And rent's due every day, right? Like that's another saying that in the weightlifting community, that's definitely very true. And I think in the health community, that's true. Rent's due every day, right? You gotta pay rent.
One thing that I love about Palmer's Law of Life, he touches on this fact of we're either moving closer to life or closer to death.
Yep.
So, and you can be kind of like as nitty gritty as you want to be with that, right? Like you can be like, okay, am I going to drink this water right now and go closer to life, or am I going to drink this soda closer to death? Or, I mean, even in the sense of like, I like to like alcohol for an instance. Like sometimes we make that decision. Like I know the repercussions, but I'm gonna move closer to death in this scenario. You know what I mean? But like, so it's that factor of like, okay, you are responsible for your health, and you have to take that into account. But I mean, you touched on it earlier about governmental reliance.
Yeah.
The government can't make you more healthy, like
they honestly don't care.
They honestly don't care, but like they can't give you anything to make you more healthy. Like people want this vaccine to be their health savior, or even just like anything to be their health savior, that's subsidized by a governmental agency will never ever make you healthy.
Nope.
Because they will never get it. They're never going to put like chiropractic at the top of that list. Free chiro care for everybody. That'd be awesome, but they'll never do it.
Nah. And I mean that.
Not unless one of us become president.
Well, hey, I mean, there's a thought. You know, if anybody you could write me in for your vote. You know, I'd serve. You know, I'm not excited to do it, but you know, I'd answer the call.
Hey, could we do a duo presidency? Is that a thing?
Yeah, man. You can run. I'll be VP.
Well, I don't want to be president. That's the hard work, man. I want the VP.
Somebody's got to be it. Maybe, yeah. I mean,
a dual.
You know, getting back around.
The art dealer presidential campaign, man.
2024.
Actually, have you started watching Young Rock? Have you seen?
No,
that?
I haven't. I remember you talking about it.
It's pretty funny, because he's on his like campaign trail to become president.
Oh, okay.
Which is funny because like a lot
or young version.
Huh?
Older version or young version?
Older, like it's set in the year 2034 or something.
Dude,
like that.
I swear, I've heard that he's actually like gonna try and run.
No, and that's why it's funny because like he's like been asked before if he ever would or like contemplated it. And he's not said no. Like he's like, yeah, think about it. So it's funny that he made this show.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's kind of happening. But yeah. It'll be interesting the policies that, because like a politician, it ebbs and flows, right? Like we get one extreme to the next, and it's kind of like been like super extreme, super extreme, super extreme, and I don't know when the balance comes, but I don't know. But one thing
my opinion, you know, stress the my opinion part of it, but more recently, I think that the polarizing has been like, I mean, like it almost seems like it's getting worse, right?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, and they touched on that in the episode too. For those who don't know, it's episode 102 of Real AF with Andy Frisella. Definitely go and listen to it because a lot of what we're talking make more sense. But and if you don't listen to Andy Frisella in general, like you gotta start. No, especially if you're a business owner, go back and listen to his MFCO project stuff. Huh?
I'll say don't be scared.
He'll be on here?
No, I'm just saying some people are scared. Like
yeah, because it takes discipline and it takes hard work. But I mean, shoot. Well, I don't even remember what my point was, but I don't know. There was a part of it. Because we tend to polarize different aspects instead of like recognizing, like, you know, there's a lot of middle ground to be had, and the more we polarize, the more we divide, and the more we divide, the less we get to actual solutions to where we want to be.
Totally.
One of my biggest pet peeves is like, okay, I hate when people complain, like I really do, and I know that's kind of ironic because I'm complaining about people complaining, but I'm a very like solution-oriented person. So I always like want to follow up like, hey, if we are going to complain about something, then we have to, I talk to Chantel about this all the time, then we have to provide some sort of solution or some sort of like change that we want to be made. And I think when we talk about this polarization and talk about how people they get so frustrated with people that don't wear masks, or we're, you know, frustrated with people that do wear masks, and like, but the more we get out there and the more we realize like, hey, we're not all like crazy, the more I think we'll get back to an America or a world that we actually like love to be a part of, and not one today where we're like, dude, people are losing their minds. Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, touching on the episode, a lot of people, data's hard to get into when you don't have even like an inquisitive mind, and not everybody does, and that's fine. Like, yeah. So a lot of people rely on the authority of their public representatives, the public officials, to have
they're supposed to have their back.
Well, I mean, to be ethical in what they're giving as far as information. And it's a really tough pill to swallow when you've been relying on these people to give you ethical information about what's best for you, and to find out that they've been lying and like they've been taking advantage of your trust. And I think that's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. And a lot of people don't want to accept that truth.
Right.
And in a way, I think that's, and I think that the authorities, they know that. So rather than admitting that they were wrong or deceitful with their policies or whatever their, the information that they released, they almost kind of like double down and say, oh yeah, the people that are telling you that, no, they're conspiracy theorists. They want to kill old people. They really want to polarize the people. You know what I mean? Like, they don't care about your health. Dude, if anything, we care so much more about your health and you as a human being and your children and like the future generations of people in society than they ever will.
We want there to be ethical background for it.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that it's funny because you talk about those policies and like if tomorrow that some politician, I don't really care who it was going to be like, yeah, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done a mask mandate. I should have never agreed to this 2-week lockdown, or I should have never agreed to not keep children in school. But they'll never have that apology. Like, that'll never come.
No.
But what's funny is, like, you see these different states like Texas or Missouri, who just ended their mask mandate, and people are like applauding.
I think it was Mississippi.
Oh, Mississippi. Okay. And people are applauding, which is like, even I applauded. I was like, okay, good for you guys. Like, you guys are taking a stand and recognizing like, hey, it's been a year. It's time.
Yeah.
But then I saw a post the other day. I don't remember who it was. And they equated to like having the mask mandate, and then now it's lifted to like thanking your abuser for stop beating you.
Right.
And that concept kind of blew my mind because I was like, yo, that's kind of true, because like we did get rights taken away, violated, and abused. So why should I thank a governmental policy who really does not care about the health? It's just like, oh, well, now we'll stand up because it's
convenient
time. Convenient. Yeah. And then, whereas like you look at governors like the Florida governor, who like never really had one.
Yep.
Their numbers are just as the same, if not better, than majority of the states who are ridiculous, including Michigan. And
I don't know. It's just like, dude, it is so funny how, and call me conspiracy theorist, I don't give a shit. Dude, the fact that it's based on cases is just ridiculous, right?
Yeah, they switched it up because they knew it didn't have any validity.
Yeah, and like that's the.
Not to mention they talk about the PCR testing and that too.
Exactly. So like, oh man, there's so many things wrong with it. Just like from the core of it all that really make it tough. So yeah, the fact that that Florida's had the lowest amount of cases, yeah, like that is cool. But the same vein, like cases doesn't even really mean all that much either. Like it'd be one instance if they were going off of death counts or whatever. And, to me, that's just something that's from the beginning has been, that's just something that's really bugged me. I mean, they talked about it yesterday. I know we keep going back to the episode, but I think that's it's an important episode because, they had a triple board certified neurologist as somebody that is from the top down talking about his view on not just mask mandates or the vaccine, but literally the manipulation of the data. And the manipulation of the data from the start was broadcast all over every news outlet. I think CNN had case counts, like a running counter on their, next to the logo on the bottom right. It was like case counts, like just kept going up. And like, that's just like such a mental, excuse my French, mind fuck for people to like just be watching that. Like, they're like, oh my God, like, that's just really like building up in their minds about this pandemic, this disease that's just out there, and just like, oh, when am I gonna, I could be next type mentality. You know what I mean? And is so manipulative because cases don't mean anything.
No.
Especially when the PCR test literally, you don't even have to have symptoms. You can be asymptomatic and get a PCR test and be positive. Like, it literally has no
the
impact.
cycles they were running it on too were ones that you're gonna find something regardless.
Right. And you get into the hospital aspect of it. Hospitals, we found, this has been out for a while, but hospitals get $20,000 to $30,000 per bed for somebody with COVID or suspected COVID.
Dude, that blew my mind.
Yeah.
And I haven't, full disclosure, like I haven't done my own research on that. But if it were to be true, and I'm not the first time I've heard that, if someone listening to this does not believe that the hospital would do that, then you don't know how these hospitals run.
Bro, they're owned by Big Pharma.
They are a business. And the people that run them like a business, because people will get turned away for certain things if they do not have things to cover their pay.
For sure.
Now, not every doctor is like that. I guarantee you the doctors are probably, some of them are more ethical. But at the end of the day, if they are running it like a business, and a majority of them are, they will take that all day.
Yeah.
Think how much profit that is. Per case, per bed. How much you would make.
Suspected COVID, right?
Suspected.
I'm sure everybody's seen it. Like the symptoms are everything under the sun, right? So you could chalk up everybody in damn near every unit of a hospital to COVID if you wanted to. Suspected COVID, you know what I mean? Oh, this person had literally this symptom. Oh yeah, that could be COVID. You know what I mean? You better run a PCR test. That's real non-specific, and that'll pretty much cover our grounds, get us another $30K. You had people dying in car accidents that got labeled COVID deaths. It's just like.
And if you think about the disparity of, if people are staying at home, there's going to be less accidents or less whatever, you name it, for the most part. And so you might have to cover your butt on some of that stuff, honestly.
For sure.
They might have. But one thing that, when you were talking earlier, it reminded me of something, because each and every single one of us, we have our priorities in life, and we also have like our opinions and how we view how we want our life to be, right? And one thing that we have been talking about recently within the Wellness Way is talking about how, like, the quality of life is determined by the questions you ask yourself. And 3 of them, it says, what am I doing to develop myself? What am I doing to develop my family? What am I doing to develop the people around me? And like, imagine where we would be at if we had asked those questions at the beginning.
Yeah.
Or even, I don't know, man. Just like we're still a year in and people are still crazy. Like, we just passed up the 2-week curve start, right? Like, I think it was yesterday or the day before that, maybe.
54 weeks in, right?
So,
it's tough to see. Especially, I could care less, really, to be quite honest, if people. I say this with the intention that, like, I firmly believe that your health is your own priority, and it is your responsibility. I know that people are there, that some people need help, and I definitely think those people should seek help for becoming healthy and having people lead them on a path to a healthier life. But if you want to wear a mask and that makes you feel safer, go right ahead. But for me to get berated or whatever for not wanting to wear a mask that literally has no scientific validation on the effectiveness of just preventing, quote unquote, the COVID virus, dude, like that part in general to me is just almost what pisses me off most. That people are being socially ostrated for making their own decisions with their own freedoms on their own health.
Did you see that lady that got beat up in Bath and Body Works or something
I
the other
heard
day?
about it. And
Oh, dude, it was insane.
dude,
It was ugly to watch, man. Like, I mean, I don't know what transpired before that.
yeah.
I don't. But if it is what it appears to be, like, it's messed up.
It's disgusting. And in a
It's
way, it
disgusting.
comes from programming people to be so afraid that these masks are saving us from getting these germs that make us sick. And it goes back to the concept that germs make you sick. And dude, that's been proven wrong from forever ago. Like that was a theory that was proven wrong back in like 1700s that germs make you sick.
If your doctor still believes in the germ theory, then you need to get another doctor.
You need to report your doctor is what you need to do. That guy or woman should not be telling people health advice.
Yeah. Well, I said this at the beginning too, dude. When all this mask stuff started coming out. Masks, they present a false sense of security too. And they touched on this in the episode because what are people doing that have these masks? That's about it. Because they're still touching stuff. They're still like, I mean, you see it at the gas station or whatever all the time. If you go up, they'll touch your drink, but they'll have the plexiglass or the plastic over the credit card machine. Like, it's stupid. Like, you physically touched if it is as bad as they say it is, we should not be allowed to touch anything.
I mean, it's just literally impossible to operate that way. And like, it would be impossible if that was truly how germs worked.
If it was, yeah, exactly.
People believe that everything's sterile, and dude, I mean, sterile is such like that is not how it is. The exact opposite. Germs are everywhere, and like germs are more times than not beneficial for our body. I mean, we literally have our own germs that proliferate health within us. They cultivate health. Talk about cultivating a gut microbiome, right?
Yeah.
Probiotics. Those are gut bacteria, things that build your gut bacteria because they thrive in a community of diversity.
They thrive in diversity, but then also too, how many people do you know in the past year or 2 years have been to the ocean?
A good amount, I would say. I know a good amount.
A good amount?
I guess what's a good amount?
Trillions upon trillions of bacteria, viruses, I mean, fish poop, like stuff inside of the ocean. And yet anybody who is scared of COVID, you would ask them if they would go to the beach in Florida and swim. But if they were isolated, they would do it.
Yeah.
And yet they would be coming into literal contact with trillions of viruses. And they've been doing more studies now too, not even just on the microbiome, but the virome. So like the viruses that live inside of your body as a whole as well, not just bacteria. I'm pretty sure it's more than the bacteria in your body.
That's amazing, bro. I never knew that.
I'm almost positive. I mean, don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure that there's more viruses than the actual bacteria within our body. But
wow,
which is astounding. And it I mean, when you get, and I told you this too, people are going to be sicker on the end of this because we've been spraying down, sanitizing. Oh my gosh, dude. There was this lady at my mom's work who was literally wiping herself with Lysol.
Oh.
Like, talk about, I don't even know. Not only is that toxicity for your body, what do we have? Thoughts, traumas, toxins, toxicity right in your body. But you are literally actively killing bacteria on you. And you mentioned the bacteria. They talked about this in the episode. Dude, you have literal strep on you right now. But what keeps your body right now, or E. coli, whatever, all these bacteria that have been that do produce sickness, but why don't they overrun the body? It's because your immune system does what it's supposed to.
Yep.
But then these people are freaking Lysoling their bodies, man. Like,
That's crazy, dude. Iatrogenesis, is that the transference of like through our skin? I might be dead wrong.
Iatrogenesis.
I think that's similar to like, 'cause, you know, our skin can obviously excrete. It's a big part of our detoxification process, sweating, whatever. But I also think that goes the other way too, where, you know, whatever you apply to your skin, things that you put on your skin can be absorbed by your skin. Might be wrong. I feel like it's iatrogenesis.
So iatrogenesis is the causation of disease, a harmful complication, or other ill effect by any medical activity, including diagnosis, intervention, error, or negligence.
Sweet. So dead wrong on the verbiage, or on the on
but it's
all
still
that.
Really good.
That is a good word, iatrogenesis. I'll have to think about that. But there is something. There's a word to it.
It still applies to what you're talking about, because what did they tell people to do for months? Sanitize, wipe down everything.
Mm-hmm.
All this stuff. What is that going to produce? An environment that's not equivalent to health. So you could argue that or an environment that does not support your immune system properly, you could argue that could be a causation of the disease that people are going to be, or a harmful complication that people are going to start experiencing. It's just like antibiotics. That's an iatrogenic effect. If you are rounds and rounds of antibiotics, then you have a harmful complication down the line because you killed everything. It's the same concept. So you could argue that that's still taking place. I would at least. I mean,
no, definitely. That's like goes hand in hand with logic, right? So
yeah.
I guess one thing I wanted to like speak on before we wrap it up, because this is something that like we talked about over the voice messages, just like listening to being authentic with your word and your voice. I mean, so one of the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Luis is being impeccable with your word, right? And as chiropractors or somebody who values health, you know, going against what your internal belief system is, it's hard. That's stuff that can really eat away at you. So with the mask stuff, I mean, moving forward, we talked about it. I mean, you talked about it too. You hit on it where, you know, if you're going into a store and like you're going to be berated or whatever for not wearing a mask, like when there's no structural ground for them to stand on like the validity of them. And I know that people are scared and they've been, you know, like we talked about before, they've been misled, but like it's my freedom to really understand a lot better than most people do on health. And
well, then you get an opportunity to educate as well.
Yes, for
sure. You know what I mean? Like if somebody does come at you, if they are one that's willing to listen, you can talk to them about it and be like, hey, I'm a doctor. I can read data.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I guess, I don't know. I'm not telling you not to wear a mask, but if it goes against your internal belief system to wear that mask, it's your right.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
People are so scared of confrontation or going against authority. But to be quite honest, in the last year, authority hasn't had our best interest in mind, not even close. So,
in fact, it's true.
You got to do what's, like you said, those 3 things, right? What's best for you, your family, and
those around you.
Those around you. So,
what are you doing? What are you doing to develop? I mean, in the past year, nobody's been doing anything to develop any of that.
Yeah.
On the grand scheme, you know. So I mean, yeah, there's just this concept of, I think people, you know, I don't know if they need permission, but like you don't need permission to be healthy.
Oh.
Like you have it inbred in every one of us. You don't need permission to go out into the sunshine. You don't need permission to have a healthy social life that consists of human contact.
I mean, yeah, I don't mean to keep beating a dead horse, man, but like they closed.
But the frustration is real, dude. Like the frustration is real, you know?
Yeah, for real. Yeah, you don't need permission. You don't need permission to to exercise your fundamental rights is, I mean, in our where we live as an American. You know what I mean? Those are rights that people fought and died for all the time, all day, every day, right?
Yeah.
And in a way that those have been shit on, and not just this last year, but I'd argue it's been going on for quite some time, and it's almost kind of come to this point where this kind of came to a head.
It's a slow drip.
Yeah. Slowly stripping away what people are tolerating, and how far will you be pushed till, you say enough's enough. So, like I said, man, it's all within your own internal belief system, and do everything out of love, man. I mean, it's nothing that I'm trying to go out there and incite anybody to be angry or to fight somebody, but it is something that it's a place that I really do care about other people and those around me, that I want to do what's best, not for just me, my family, but for them and their family and our future families, because it isn't just me and my family in the future, it's everybody. So we can't go forward alone, right? We need to do it together. So
I want to end off on something real quick before we get out. Is something that you touched on at the very, very beginning, just that connection aspect. And in terms of an adjustment, or in terms of any type of interaction we have, and you were talking about the quantum aspect of it, like that connection aspect is so cool to know that your physical atom presence has the ability to interact and react with someone else's physical atom presence. And the more you do that, the more connection you have through that, the more love you entertain through that, the more intention and purpose you have every single day you wake up, the more we're going to be able to thrive, not just survive, but thrive as a society and as a unit who, if we're a community, we all should want each other's backs. We all should want each other to have rights, even if you disagree, even if you don't want this or don't want that, like to have a survival mind to thrive, and that connection is so important. And I like how you touched on that earlier too, because as chiropractor, it was like the thought of the adjustment and how you can, I don't know, this was just like the mental imagery that came into my mind, was like your hand and the quantum physics atom presence that to pervade almost like that skin, to pervade that muscle layer and even the bone and go right into the nervous system.
Yeah.
The ability of those to theoretically do that, like, kind of blew my mind. So,
I mean, yeah, dude, 100%. I always think about what that story with the monk you told me about in Tibet, right? With his hand on the wall.
Dude, that was wild, man.
But to me, that's quantum. So,
we are gonna go there. We are gonna go.
I gotta split, but if any good fighters listening, man, share with us your good fights. We'd love to hear them.
Yes, sir.
Again, always give us a shout out if you guys have anything you want to talk to us about on our Instagrams or whatever you like. I mean, we're always here to talk and start a conversation. So,
DC Nasty and Gatesmere DC, follow us, shout us out. We'll catch y'all later. Good fighters.
Choose your destiny.